Good morning, everybody. Excuse me. I'm Melissa Nielsen of Waldorf Essentials, and we are trying a little bit of new lighting this morning in a different room, so we'll see how this goes. It seems a little bit slower in this room, so I'm hoping that the video isn't too pixelated and too jumpy. But today, let me introduce myself. I think I just did. Melissa Nielsen of Waldorf Essentials, waldorfessentials.com. And today we're going to talk about keeping the magic alive when you have mixes. So this would be for anybody that's maybe got big kids and little kids. I've got 5 kids, and they range from ages 5 up to 19 and a half. And it could also be helpful for those that are maybe in a situation where they've got just a lot of family around, or their kids are dealing with a lot of people. This is how my connection is weak. I'm going to move into the kitchen where I usually am, and let's see how that goes. Okay, taking tea with me. Hope y'all had a good Saturday, Sunday. I know a lot of people are eating today because it's Memorial Day. Americans, anyway. So, there we go. Let's see if this is better. The lighting's not as good. But hopefully my connection will get stronger. So I really want to be able to tackle this in a way that honors both the young children and the older children. You know, the older children have sort of been through this place where they are, they've sort of gone through all of these stages, and they're in general, they're in a spot where they should be, especially if you've been careful with your parenting and you've kept them away from too much of the world. They're still going to be sort of going in that space. They're still going to be going in that direction of, learning and trying to figure out their environment. So that's who they are. And so you want to really be able to capture that and allow that space, and at the same time allow the space of the magic for your younger ones. And so we've kind of been working with this off and on for a long time, just because we do have so many kids. And one of the things that I say often to big kids is, nobody there was there to ruin your magic. So you cannot ruin it for Sam or Soraya. You need to remember that you were once 5, you were once 4, you were once 6. You need to be okay with them having it their way, as far as, it may not be totally accurate. They're in a very dreamy place, and you need to be okay with that. And so, I talk to my big kids about that often. And when we're in a group setting where there's kids that I don't know very well, I talk to those kids too. But I don't talk to them about it in a very, I'm not harsh about it. So I might gather a group of, say, 9, 10, 11-year-olds and say, listen, we've got little kids here today. I want to make sure that they have a good time too. So let's keep your bigger kid talk maybe over here to the side. And when we're all together as a group, because we run a co-op, so sometimes this has to be said, when we're all together as a group, let's remember that there are little kids here too. And let's remember that even though I know you're really excited to talk about Star Wars, we're not going to talk about that with the little kids around, because they're too little for that. And we want to honor your space and where you are by giving you this space over here. But when we're together, we want to honor everybody's space. And so that's super helpful, especially when you've got kids that maybe you don't know very well, but you want to sort of gather them together. And don't be afraid to say those things. Don't be afraid to, if you're doing it in love and kindness, don't be afraid to say those things. If you're doing it out of frustration and anger, then it's probably because you should have done it when the party first started, or when the event first started, and things have kind of gotten out of hand. So just by reminding those age groups, I think it's super helpful. If you've got kids that maybe aren't molding into your group very well, or melding into your group very well, I think it's helpful to have a straight up talk with the parents of, this is something that we really don't want at our group, but we want you at our group. And so is there a way that we can work on this together so that everybody feels safe and happy? So I think that happens a lot in homeschool groups. Waldorf groups, I think, a little bit less, but everybody's degree of Waldorf at home is very different. So you will have some kids that are watching a ton of TV and are playing a ton of video games, and they want to come to your co-op group and they want to talk about Minecraft all the time, or maybe something that is objectionable, TV-wise. And so you want to be very upfront and honest with those people. With my big kids, even though they've had some media, I will, we sort of go through before we get out of the car at places. Okay, what are we here for today? What is the feeling that we want to have at co-op? We want to have this peace and calm, and we want to make sure that the little kids feel their space as well. So I remind my big kids. I also, with regards to just sort of how things go at home, I sort of said that I do this joking thing where I say nobody ruined it for you, so you don't get to ruin it for them. And I say that to them on a regular basis, not in a mean way, but sometimes I'll whisper it in their ear. I'll go, nobody ruined it for you, so you don't get to ruin it for them. And they go, oh yeah, Mom's on to me. So I'll do that. I also regularly, I police media in my house. I don't like to be the media cop, but it's very easy in today's environment to have kids that sort of get in over their heads very easily. And so I think that it is absolutely very appropriate and needed for you to police the media that goes on in your house. Even though we teach our kids to make really good choices, I think that it's very easy for them to be sucked into media, whether that be something that they see on Facebook or something that they're watching on YouTube or Netflix or whatever it might be. So I think it's really important that you really police that and that you have rules about that in your home. So while we allow our teenagers to have smartphones, we also have rules about where they belong and where they don't belong. They generally don't belong at the kitchen table unless you're working out something for school and we're all at the table together, or there's something that's okay for everybody to hear and see, which 9 times out of 10 it's not. So I encourage headphones. The best purchase I ever made for my 15-year-old daughter and for myself was noise canceling headphones for her. Best purchase ever. I mean, worth every penny of the $60 that I spent for those. So, and it's more than I don't want to listen to Taylor Swift. It's more that I don't want whatever she's listening to be something that the kids the little ones are also hearing. So while she's, 15 and a half, she has more privileges, but that does not extend to sort of what goes on in our common space. So in our common space, I want everybody to feel connected. I want everybody to be able to feel the spirit in our home. I want those things to be sort of at the forefront. So I make sure that our rules are followed. And sometimes, not usually, but sometimes that makes me sound naggy. And so I try to really be careful about, gosh, did I just remind her of that 5 minutes ago and she's just willingly disobeying? Or did she not hear me? Or did she think I changed my mind? So I definitely approach it with love and kindness. I also, when we had 3 teenagers in the house, we had, and we still have family meetings every week, but we had a separate meeting that was just with the big kids, where I may have said, I noticed that media is kind of getting out of hand, or, I noticed that you're not being super kind to your brother, or, and so we were able to talk about those things with just the big kids around. And that was super helpful so that they didn't feel attacked in a huge setting, a huge situation. And they didn't have the little ones going, yeah, I don't like it when you do that. Because that's what siblings can do. That doesn't mean that that's what they have to do, because in our home, we have really fostered them getting along and fostered them loving one another, and I think that's really important. And so, what you bring to it and the way your attitudes are will absolutely affect sort of how things are going in your home. So I think you have to really think about your attitude with your own siblings. I was an only child for most of my life, so I didn't have the siblings. We sort of laugh because I guess every kid does the hot lava thing when it comes to the jumping around on the furniture, and I didn't even know what hot lava was. I mean, like, if you had said we play the hot lava game, I'd have been like, huh? But my kids play it, and one time, like the first time they played it, my big kids, Eric was laughing. I was like, what are you laughing about? I don't get it. What's hot lava? And he has to explain to me that was something that he had played with his siblings, and so it's definitely different when you grew up in a household with only yourself. And so, I try to be very accommodating of sibling stuff, and it helps that Eric had 3 siblings, and so, I can sort of bounce some ideas off of him, and he and I are always together about that. But when it comes to the actual, like, making the house rules, we have pretty strict rules when it comes to sort of keeping the magic alive for the little ones. And that means that sort of in our house we have this rule about magical things like St. Nicholas and Tooth Fairy and sometimes Easter Bunny. All of those things, so we have rules, and the rule is if you don't believe, you don't receive. And so I will say to big kids, you are very welcome to not believe in this tradition. Very welcome. But that means that you are also forfeiting any gifts that magical creature or being would bring. And it also means that you are really on that as parents, because we want to keep the magic alive, and that can be hard with all of the influences of the world. So when Harry was he was a Boy Scout, so maybe he was still a Cub Scout, so he was probably 8 or 9 and maybe 10, maybe the subject of St. Nicholas had come up, and the boys were all giving him a hard time because, oh, you still believe? How can you still believe? And so I talked to a scout leader, and the next week I came in and I did this whole, like, who is St. Nicholas? And was he a real dude? And they loved it. All of those kids went home and asked their parents if they could write their letters in like October so that they could do St. Nicholas the next year instead of doing Santa Claus at Christmas time. I had some very interesting conversations at church after that, but it helped support where my kids were,